across the darkness, I see a face like mine, frightened by the shadows that leave us far behind. Not far in the future, I see a face on fire, four walls around us now. I'm trying to get mad, but I'm afraid of anger. Oh, what will I do if I stop feeling sorry? My thoughts are flaming red. This party's now raging. Cannot see ahead. Been bound.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you, Mackenzie Shivers. Look at you.
Hi, I can hear and see you, Jamie.
Wow, look at that beautiful plant. I love it.
Thank
I love
you.
it. It's so
Gotta keep
natural.
things spruced up working from home COVID times.
I think so.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think so, Mackenzie. Well, welcome. I have to tell you, first of all, Mackenzie, what an album that you have
Thank
unleashed on the
you.
world. Rejection Letter. Like, let's start with that because I can't hold it. What an unbelievable album.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. It really, really does. I'm very excited about it.
Absolutely, as you should be. I mean, look, we love all your stuff. I mean, we love the Neverland and the Unkindness. Your three piece, even your holiday stuff. We love.
Oh,
But
thank
this
you.
one, we've played it to death. I mean, we just love it. I think you did something special, Mackenzie, personally here
Thank
with this one.
you. That really means a great deal to me. Because it was a very special process making it, and I'm just really thrilled with how it came out. So that does mean a great deal to me.
Absolutely. So let me just quickly introduce you to my audience, Mackenzie. Obviously, you're a wonderful and accomplished composer, singer, songwriter. You've done some modeling in your past, a little bit of acting. So
Yes.
you've done a little bit of everything. Played to audiences all over the world, in Japan, many countries, international tour. And people can order your album at MacKenzieShivers.com and follow you on Instagram at NYKenzie as well.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So yeah, I mean, Mackenzie. So let's start with this. I mean, as one is listening to your album, Rejection Letter. Look, the music quality, your vocals, the songwriting is obvious, but one of the biggest takeaways, I think, is the message that comes across of resilience, right? Like overcoming adversity and that kind of thing. Was this album, Mackenzie, almost your most gratifying to get across the finish line?
Yes, that it was. And I will tell you, I had what I thought was going to be the album written before the pandemic hit. So in February 2020, I had a group of songs that I was like, this is going to be the record. This is it. I had plans to go down to Richmond, Virginia to record at a studio that has this amazing grand piano. We were going to do the whole thing live, and it was going to be a very more live, raw rock and roll feel with the band. And I was super excited about it. And then, our lives all changed and shifted, and I ended up writing a batch of new songs in quarantine and had all these new ideas for the album, and I felt even more strongly about making it. I think that making art is important, but we wanted to obviously make sure to do it safely. It's important
Yeah.
to make, but not to risk your life necessarily to make it. So that's like the conversation that Kevin Salem, who produced this with me, and I had of how do we do this but make sure everybody's safe. and comfortable and excited about it. So we decided to record it in a very different fashion than we would have, which was starting out with me putting down all the piano and vocals by myself and guitar, and then layering everything on top of it. And it just felt kind of like representative of the times. Albums are always like a slice of time and a moment in time, and so I think this felt appropriate, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And I love how you're, like saying it, with the hindsight of time, how everything worked out. But at that moment, February 20th of last year, early March, that whole time frame, was it hard? Was it like, realizing that you had these plans, you had this theme in your head, it was kind of like moving forward, and then kind of like get the rug pulled out underneath?
Definitely, definitely. I will say though, I was disappointed. I mean, a lot of artists had, big plans for 2020, and I had plans to record a record, but I also had been touring a lot and playing a lot of shows and kind of on this a bit of a hamster wheel of just kind of go, 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 go. And so I actually already in my head had planned on taking a bit of a pause kind of
Mm,
in 2020, or I told myself like I want to focus on making a record, but otherwise I want to slow down a little bit and be mindful of what I'm choosing to do with my time, what I'm choosing to make with my time. So, yes, in one way, I felt like the rug got pulled up, out from under me as it did with all of us. But at the same time, I felt very fortunate in that it's not like I did have a huge tour planned for 2020 that had to get canceled because
right.
I kind of just done a touring schedule. And so
Hmm.
I did feel very fortunate actually in that
Okay,
way.
good, good. So it was
Yeah.
easier for you to just pick up New York and go to Cape Cod.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, I was like, okay, I had just played a big show in New York, and it was kind of this show that sort of represented the end of the Unkindness release cycle, my last record. And
Yeah.
so I just played that like days before.
Mm.
And I can't believe that timing in retrospect that
Poetic
yeah,
almost.
almost kind of
Wow.
poetic. Yeah, really. And I remember kind of at that show afterwards talking to friends and family and us kind of talking about, oh, this COVID thing, like, do we think it seems like this might be kind of serious? And it was just starting to like really become a thing over here in the
Mm.
States at that time. And I remember I'll never forget that.
Unbelievable. But tell me a little bit about Cape Cod, because I spent a couple summers there when I was growing up. Hyannis. I love that area.
Yeah, yeah, it's
So just,
beautiful.
yeah, just tell us a little bit about like your mindset as you were driving there. You picked up your guitar, living this, New York, which everyone was, scared of big cities at that point in time. And just like, were you excited? Were you nervous? Like, what was like your mindset there going to Cape Cod?
I was both. I was excited and nervous. We have really dear friends who live up in Cape Cod. And so at the time, they invited us as like, oh, come hang out up here for a week while everybody figures everything out. So my husband and I were like, cool, yeah, like that sounds fun. We'll pack a bag and grab my guitar and go up to Cape Cod for a week. And then we went up there and we slowly realized, all of us, there were four of us there together. We were all kind of like, okay, I think maybe this is going to be like a long-term
Right.
thing where
That
we all
was that
camp
was when
out
they
here.
told us to like hide for 2 weeks because it'll get better in 2 weeks, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. And so we were like, okay, cool. And then we were like, I think maybe we might be here for a while. And so we ended up being there for 3 months. And it was it was wild just because all of a sudden my life looked completely different. I was in a completely different place, completely different pacing. I would wake up in the morning and look at the ocean and look at the birds and how the light would change over the water, and it was
Beautiful.
so beautiful. And it just felt like very comforting in a time that was very chaotic. So I will always feel very fortunate to have had that experience and kind of have that be a sanctuary during that
Definitely.
time.
Beautiful visual. And especially when you realize you had the guitar that your great grandmother was given by your father.
Yes, yes.
So, you had this juxtaposition with time, just really crazy kind of visual there. I like it.
Definitely. Yeah, time is a funny thing, especially this past year.
Right.
It's yeah, feels
Definitely.
feels different than it ever has to me.
That's great, Mackenzie. And before we get to the new songs, I'm curious about your songwriting because, look, it's been said before, yeah, about your piano and how you started playing instruments at a young age, but you know, not a lot written about your songwriting. Your songwriting, your first baby steps into it, and you're such a great songwriter.
Thank
So
you.
I'm curious how it came into you. Were you into poetry? Like, were you in school? How did it come to you?
It came to me when I was very young, when I was like 4, I think, is
Wow.
when I wrote like a little tune on the piano with words. And I remember I wrote it about like a good friend of mine, and it was just, the lyrics were like, Natalie's my best friend and she's nice and she's kind, and kind of one of those songs
Not
that
much
a
different than some
4-year-old
of the
might.
stuff on the air on the radio right now on
Well,
top
fair,
40. Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So that was that I just remember that very, very well, that being the first song I wrote, and not really thinking much of it, just being a kid and just kind of expressing myself, I guess, in that
Yeah.
way. And I was drawn to the piano when I was very little. And so it just kind of, I don't know, I feel like music just kind of presented itself to me when I was very young. And then I studied music in college. I was a
Mhm.
composition major
Yeah.
and studied classical music on classical piano and voice. And then I kind of took like a hiatus when I moved to New York City, because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to pursue it as a career or not. And then I read this book called Girls Like Us. I don't know if you know it, but it chronicles the lives of Joni Mitchell and Carly Simon
Mm,
and Carole King. And I read
perfect.
this book, and I was kind of like listening to their music as I was reading it, almost like my own little like study guide. And I started writing a bunch of songs. I just got like very inspired by that. And
Wow.
it just kind of found me again, I guess, music. And I really haven't stopped since. That was in like 2013. So I've been writing music again ever since then.
I love it. Unbelievable. So, I'm fascinated by this process because I'm not an artist, Mackenzie. So when you're gonna songwrite, are you like, do you tell your husband and do you tell your family, all right, guys, I am going to lock myself in the Cape Cod cabin or in New York, my home office from 9 to 5, phones off, nobody bother me, see you at 5? Or is it more like when inspiration strikes on the subway, wherever?
It is definitely the latter. And it's funny you mentioned the subway, because that happens a lot on the subway. I guess I haven't taken the subway much, in the past year, but pre-COVID, I would get a lot of ideas on the train. I think there's something about like being in motion, because this happens sometimes when I'm in the car
Mm,
or even on an airplane. I don't know what it is, but I'll get
wow.
a lot of lyrical ideas, and I'll just jot them down on my phone. But it's definitely I feel like I get kind of like the tap on the shoulder of I always say that Tori Amos calls it the muses, of
Mm,
like, okay, there's a song. I kind of like feel it coming. And so if I'm near a piano, I'll go, or my guitar,
oh, that's
I'll pick
great.
up the guitar, go to the piano, and it usually kind of manifests itself. But um, I would like to I would like to also be able to just like say, I'm going to sit down and write a song today, but it usually doesn't happen like that.
I love that. Oh my God, I love it. I love it, Mackenzie. Great story. I can just see you in a packed subway pre-COVID. People in chaos, Whole Foods groceries, and you're like, "There's a song."
Yeah.
I just like the visual.
Yeah. No, no, can't explain it, but that's how it happens a lot.
Oh, the best. All right, let's talk about a few of your songs. Look, I could talk about the whole album, but we don't have time, so let's just pick a few random. But they're all so great. It's people. I mean, it's a whole story, the whole thing.
Thank
Let's
you.
start with Okay, let's start with Afraid, right?
Okay.
Because fears of global warming, of course, bringing a child into a world that we have that fear that, like, are we destroying it? Is it even going to be there for them? Tell me a little bit about the way that piano brings the album into focus, your vocals, and then like the message behind it.
Um, Great question. So Afraid, I liked starting the record with Afraid because it kind of introduces the core band throughout the song itself. So you start just with the piano, and it's kind of to me it's sort of like this invitation, those first few piano notes, and kind of giving you an idea of what the mood of the record's going to be.
Yeah.
And then the vocals come in, and then the drums hit, then the bass, then the strings come in. And so that's kind of the core instrumentation of the record and the core band members. So I think that was one reason why I thought it would be fun, or like an appropriate way to start the record off, was with Afraid. And then the message too. Fear, overcoming fear is a big theme on the record, and doing
Yeah.
them even if you're afraid to do them.
Yeah,
What that
totally,
looks like.
totally, totally. And I do want to talk about rejection letter, but I can't. I have to ask you about mess, because
Yeah.
it. I mean, obviously I'm a guy, but you really bring that sentiment to life in that urgency, that with that bass line, with the chorus. My drinks make me bold. Let's do this before I get old. I mean, brilliant lyric,
Thank you.
Mackenzie. Unbelievable. What a song.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about, was it easy to write a song about the biological clock, and did it just pour out of you, the lyrics?
Um, it definitely just poured out of me. That's what happens a lot with songwriting for me personally, is I feel like I'll be wrestling with something, or something will be kind of in my brain kind of turning over, or like, or even deeper in my psyche, and I haven't even fully realized really like what's been going on, and then it'll just come out in the
Yeah.
music. So that definitely happened with this, and then I kind of realized like, oh yeah, this is what the song is about. This is of me being in my 30s, and trying to decide whether or not I want to have a child, and then deciding I do want to have one, and kind of coming to terms with that I'm a young person, but my biological clock is telling me that I'm not in some ways. I guess that's just one way to put it.
Hmm.
Which is like a very weird thing to come to terms with, and very difficult. Um, so yeah, it was my first time writing something on that topic. Was
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not just you. I think there's not a lot written about it, and because it's not easy, it can't be easy. But you did it with such class and perfection. It's a heck of a song for
Oh,
sure.
thank you. Gosh, thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate you
I
saying
mean, yeah,
that.
it's a tricky subject, but you did it well. And
Thanks.
rejection letter, love that song.
Thank
And the
you.
reason we love it, Mackenzie, is when you go to places like, whether it's the Country Music Hall of Fame here in Nashville down the street, or in Cleveland, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a lot of these people, they have the letters saying, "Thank you for applying. Maybe next time. We appreciate your consideration, you two, or we appreciate your consideration, Dolly Parton." So love that story about you. Um, the comeback is better than the setback, if you will.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah, it
love that.
always it always is. I mean, think about it. All the great movies are, the hero suffers a setback and then comes back, but you got to have the setback. So tell me a little bit about that moment when you got that grant rejection letter. Were you crushed? It sounds like it really hit you there.
It did. I was really crushed. I think because it's something that I really like poured myself into, and I spent so much time on it, and I had several people look over it with me, and I put together something that I felt was like the best version of what I could do, and I knew it was going to be very competitive. I knew that going in, but I also really wanted it. And as I applied to this grant, I kind of told myself like, it's okay to want something. Like, it's okay
Mm,
to let yourself want something. It makes it harder if you get rejected, but also like it's important to be able to look at things and say, I want this, and I worked hard to try to get this, and it's going to be tough if I don't get it, and I might not get it. Like a lot of people are in my same shoes in terms of applying for artistic grants, or a lot of people put themselves out there and get those letters like you just described, and it's crushing. I mean, that's really hard. So it was tough, but I also knew it was like a very real big possibility, that I wouldn't get chosen for that grant. So I just kind of like let myself feel those feelings, and then dusted myself off and just said, okay, like onward. So that's kind of how
perfect.
that went.
And made one of 2021's best albums out of it.
Oh,
So
well, thank
there
you.
you go.
Gosh, I
So
appreciate
worth
that.
every second. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what that song definitely would not have come to fruition if that letter hadn't, been sent to me. So
Exactly.
there we go. I should be
So
saying
we
thank
win.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There you go,
totally.
Mackenzie.
I love
Cool.
it.
Well, you've been so generous with your time, but I have to ask you about, you mentioned a little bit of the great team that worked with you. I mean, you worked with Kevin Salem, you collaborated with him frequently.
Mhm,
You did stuff with Oliver Krause, who's worked with Sia, with Adele,
mhm, mhm.
Florence and the Machine, Yuka Tadano on bass. How was it to do all of this with like Dropbox and WeTransfer? And it just sounds like you guys were in the room together for a year. You guys did an amazing job there.
Well, thank you for saying that because that was definitely the goal. I think, Yuka, bassist extraordinaire Yuka and drummer extraordinaire Cody Iran, we've played together for almost a decade. So I
Hmm.
think that that's part of what you're hearing. They know me and my music really well, and I know them really well. And so while I wasn't in the room with them tracking, I was actually over FaceTime able to kind of like give some feedback and notes. And I also just really trust them. So there's definitely a lot of trust there. Kevin Salem is just kind of a brilliant person. And so I also trust him, and he engineered everything, produced this, played electric guitar on it, and he just kind of like got it from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then Oliver Krause was a suggestion from Kevin, who had worked with Oliver several times. And I listened to some of his work, and we knew we wanted a lot of cello, and he's a cellist, in addition to being an arranger, violist, violinist. So it just, I don't know. I think it was knowing some people for a long time and trust, a lot of trust.
Absolutely. So when you make that first like meeting like with them, and you're gonna share with them what's in your head, Mackenzie, is it like, okay, guys, this is what's in my head. Help me facilitate what's in my head, or is it more like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Help me like create it. Help me expand it.
That is an excellent question. And usually it depends on the song. Usually it's a bit of both. Like sometimes I have a very clear idea of what I want, and maybe I'll play some examples of other tracks or other artists where I'm saying like, you hear like what the bass is doing here, I'm kind of hearing that. Or there might be a song where I'll just say, oh, this is the vibe. Like I'm just hearing it like moody, or or a big shift happening here, and we'll kind of like piece it together as a team. So it's definitely very collaborative.
Mm,
I think the process, I like seeing what people bring to the table. I just think that's really fun. I like, I'm not a drummer and I'm not a bassist. So I can tell them my ideas, but I also like trust, their input and
yeah,
their talent and their sensibilities.
amazing. Well, Mackenzie Shivers, you have said it all today. What can I say? I mean, Rejection Letter just came out, guys. I mean, stream it, buy it, YouTube it, whatever. It is such a great album. Every song, the
Thank you.
composition, the music, the songwriting, the messages are heartfelt. They make you feel like it's just a spectacular album. Congratulations, Mackenzie.
Oh, thank you, Jamie. It's been really fun talking with you, and I really appreciate it. Oh, also,
Oh,
quick note, you're from
oh, yeah.
Florida, right?
Yes, you're from
So
Tampa.
am I. Yeah.
Yes, yes, correct. I did see you're from Tampa. How long
Yeah.
ago did you leave the Tampa area?
Oh gosh. I went to school in Nashville actually, in 2003, and
No
then
way.
graduated in '07 and came up to New York after that. Yeah. So
Nice,
it's been a bit,
nice.
but I like
Where
to
did
go
where
back
did you
and
come to
visit.
school in Nashville?
I went to Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
Hmm.
Commodores. Very cool.
Commodores, exactly.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. And well, you're representing us, both Florida and Nashville. We're all over the world, Mackenzie, with
There
this
we
album.
go.
So
There we go.
love it.
Thank you.
Of course. So, whenever you come back on tour, we'd love to connect. And thank you so
Oh,
much for this
yeah.
album. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
All right, Mackenzie, take care.
You too.